All right, let's talk about a feeling I bet a lot of you know. That feeling of being trapped by the very business you created to set yourself free. Kind of ironic, right? Well, today we're going to dive into a framework that helps you shift from being your business's hardest working employee to its true owner. The person who can actually step away and watch it thrive. So, let me ask you something and be honest with yourself. When you look at your daily schedule, your stress levels, the fact that you can't even take a real vacation, are you really an owner, or have you just built yourself a super high-stress, all-consuming job? That's the huge distinction we're going to unpack right now. Okay, so let's get into it. We've got to figure out why you're stuck, because that's always the first step to getting free, right? It's something called the entrepreneur's trap, and it's built on a few really common but honestly pretty dangerous ways of thinking. This right here is just brutally honest. That feeling you have that you're indispensable, the only one who can handle the pressure, that's not a badge of honor. It's not a sign of success. It's actually a sign you've kind of misunderstood the whole point. You wanted freedom, but you've accidentally built a prison. And guess what? You're the warden, the guard, and the only inmate. And these three beliefs, these are the bars on that prison cell. First, that classic, no one can do it as well as I can. Then there's, if I want it done right, I have to do it myself. And finally, the big one, I'm just afraid to outsource or delegate. Does any of that sound familiar? I bet it does. Look, these thoughts feel like you're just maintaining quality control, but what they're really doing is putting a hard ceiling on your company's growth and your own freedom. So, okay, that's the trap. How in the world do we get out of it? Well, it all starts by completely changing how you define what a business is even supposed to be. Let's look at a new perspective that honestly could change everything for you. This lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got a job that you just happen to own. You're the main operator, constantly in the machine, pulling all the levers. It's exhausting, right? And it's almost impossible to sell. But on the other side, that's the goal, a sellable asset, a business that's literally designed to run without you. It's a machine that spits out profit. In that world, you're the owner, not the operator. Big difference. So here's the absolute key takeaway. A true business is an asset. It's a system that makes money whether you're sitting in the office or on a beach somewhere, not even thinking about work. That is the North Star. That is what we are building towards. All right, so how do we actually start building this thing? Well, the very first, most practical step is to get ruthlessly honest with yourself about where your time is actually going. So let's break down your workload. Okay, here's your homework. For 1 week, I want you to write down everything you do. Seriously, everything. Then you're going to sort each task into one of 3 buckets. First, you've got set once tasks, things you do one time, like setting up an email autoresponder. Your goal there is to systemize it. Second is set and delegate, stuff you prepare and then hand off, like training a new person. You want to minimize those. And third, the magic bucket, delegate immediately. Things like daily social media posts, anything someone else can handle. Your goal is to maximize this category. Seriously, you want to push as much as humanly possible into that third column, because that, my friends, is where your freedom is hiding. But wait a second. Moving tasks into that delegate column, it's not just about dumping work on other people's desks and, hoping for the best. That's a recipe for disaster. True delegation, that requires building a solid system that actually empowers them to succeed without you. So how do you do that? Well, it comes down to 3 powerful keys. First, you create decision rules. Think of this as your company's playbook, a manual for handling all the common stuff so your team doesn't have to bug you for every little thing. Second, you grant real authority. That means empowering managers to make financial calls up to a certain limit without your approval. And third, and this is the big one, maybe the most important, you have to actively work on hiring and training your own replacement. Now look, that last one can be a little tough to hear, but it is the absolute truth if you want to build a business that can scale. You are not irreplaceable. In fact, your main job as the owner, your real job, is to make yourself replaceable. Your goal is to build a team so strong that the business doesn't even skip a beat if you're gone for a week, a month, or even forever. And this whole process of making yourself replaceable, it's not just a business strategy. It's a personal evolution. It's a journey. So let's look at the 4 levels of leadership that you're going to move through on this path to freedom. This timeline basically maps it all out. Almost everyone starts at level 1. You're the doer. You're in the trenches, doing the work. Then you evolve to level 2, the manager. Now you're managing the people who are doing the work. From there, you hit level 3. You become the consultant. You're managing the managers, offering advice. And finally, you reach the top. Level 4, the visionary. At this point, you're not involved in the day-to-day at all. Your only job is to set the vision and steer the ship. And what happens when you finally get to that visionary level? Well, for one, you get your brain back. When you're not drowning in the day-to-day details and micromanagement, you can finally lift your head up and actually see the horizon. You start spotting new markets, thinking up new products, all these opportunities that were completely invisible to you before because you were just too busy. So let's land the plane with this. Your real job, it isn't to be the best salesperson, or the best designer, or the best coder in your own company. No way. Your real job is to go out and hire people who are better than you at all of those things. That is how you build an asset. So I'll leave you with a question to really think about. Which job are you going to fire yourself from first?